requirements and require pre-marking for. What this is it's the 811 where you call before you dig. And one of the main things it does is it defines what emergency before you dig, what the emergency is. If you look on lines 158 through 163, talks about impending emergency. Means circumstances potentially dangerous to life, health, property, or the loss of customer services, which would likely develop into emergency as defined in section 77-13-11. If excavation is not initiated sooner than permitted under standard notification requirements. So what's happening is people are claiming that it's an emergency and it isn't truly an emergency, and they're going out and excavating without calling 811, and that's causing damage to infrastructure. There's several other things in the bill that talk about the timelines and of when you can do it, how the timeline of notification. But that's what this bill does. I'll be happy to entertain any questions. There are none. I'll entertain a motion. The motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? A bill will be reported. Okay, Senate Bill 2232. This has been requested by the Mississippi Department of Health, and I've talked to DEQ. They're on board with this bill as well. And Senator McDaniel is on Zoom. I'm gonna recognize him to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you guys hear me okay? Hey, can everyone hear me? Hello?
Is he muted?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Got you now. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I think you described it pretty well. The Department of Health has requested this bill, and long story short, water systems are supposed to have a certified operator, and they can operate without one for a period of time in an interim basis. The present law says 180 days. This would change the 180 days to 30 days. And so naturally, I asked the Department of Health whether or not this would cost any additional money. They said no. Also requested whether or not there was any opposition that they knew of to the bill, and they said no. So I agreed to enter the bill on their behalf, and that's all the bill does, to my understanding.
Are there any questions from the committee? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion. The motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor? Opposed? That bill will be reported. Thank you, Senator McDaniel.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right,
Chairman.
moving on to Senate Bill 2341, selection transmission infrastructure, maintain state jurisdiction over integrity of. What this bill does is it makes anyone from out of state that comes in to do infrastructure work on our grid, they have to abide by the PSC guidelines. Basically, it's either you're abiding by Biden's rules or you're abiding by the rules of the PSC, the Mississippi PSC. And that's the simple explanation of the bill. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Go ahead, Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you be open to an amendment?
Depends on what that amendment is.
It's a friendly amendment.
Tell me how friendly it is.
When we did the broadband bill, I think it was in the broadband bill, and the language is only that if and in the event that these out of state contractors do or should happen to be in Mississippi doing work, that they would consider Mississippian first in hiring the people to carry out the work.
I think that I know that I have another amendment coming, which will give us an opportunity to continue to work on this bill. I think that I would be opposed to that amendment at this time, but
You say you would not be opposed to it?
I am opposed to it this time, Senator. I think that you'll agree with the amendment that's coming before us. Okay.
Thank you. At the appropriate time, I'd like to do a reverse repealer.
So the amendment is, we put a reverse repealer in the bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we're back on the bill as amended. I had a question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had different groups approach me saying that this bill create a monopoly and this, that, and the other. I hear what you're saying. Could you explain that and say why it won't create a monopoly and this is really a good thing?
Well, I mean, you're talking about in-state entities versus out-of-state entities coming in and building critical infrastructure to our grid. Under federal law, if you allow these out-of-state people come in, they don't have to abide by the current guidelines that in-state entities have to abide by. So we're just making a level playing field. There's no monopoly or any of that. That's incorrect. But as you see, we've added a reverse repeal to the bill, so continue to work. All right, back on the bill. Do I have a motion?
All sufficient to pass.
So sufficient to pass committee sub is the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that bill reported. Another motion. Horizon report. All those in favor?
Aye.